If you were in any doubt as to how great this game looks, you need only play for long enough to land on your first forest prospect, then you'll quickly see for yourself. But as the old mantra goes, is beauty only skin deep, or is Icarus actually fun to play? I'm Forrester, and in this video I'll look to answer that question, giving a brief overview of the game as well as my own thoughts. I tried to create videos that match up cinematic gameplay footage with thoughtful commentary, so if that sounds like it's right up your street, you may like to subscribe to the channel to be notified of such videos as soon as they go live. I've included timestamps in this video which cover off the key sections, ranging from how some of the game mechanics play out to my thoughts at the end. In terms of a backstory, essentially you're a kind of space pioneer who drops down in a space pod onto the planet's surface in order to accomplish some kind of mission objective before returning to that same pod. So you have all sorts of knowledge of how to make things, but only a small amount of weight that you can bring down or take up with you. You create a character when you first load up Icarus. That character stays with you unless you create a new one, or unfortunately don't make it back from a prospect. We'll get into that in more detail later. Then you level up that character through getting experience points. Thankfully, Icarus is one of those games that gives you experience for all sorts of tasks that you undertake, from mining, chopping down trees, killing animals, or even just crafting items. There are two key perks that you get from leveling up your character. Firstly, you can unlock different blueprints which you use for crafting. There's an extensive blueprint system in the game, ranging from simple bows and stone arrows all the way to complicated solar panel electricity generation. Secondly, you unlock talent points, which allow you to customize your character somewhat. Talent points aren't infinite, and so you reach the point after a while of playing where you only get the blueprint points instead. Those talent points let you become better at many of the tasks in-game: mining, felling trees, fighting with a specific weapon type, or surviving extreme conditions. And that brings us to talk about those survival mechanics. Refreshingly, or not depending on your own point of view, Icarus doesn't drop players against each other in a tough environment. This is purely a non-PvP game, where your focus is on surviving against the environment and against the clock. It is co-op, however, meaning your friends are able to join you to conquer prospects together. Many mechanics carry over from other survival-type games, where you need to build up your shelter against different types of weather events, as well as keeping your food, water, oxygen, and temperature in the green. And naturally, there are all manner of animals roaming around who may help or hinder you on that journey. There are also different biomes which are introduced across different missions. You start out in a forest biome, which is relatively forgiving and a great place to learn the ropes. Eventually, you'll need to trek out into the Arctic biome, which is a significantly bigger environmental challenge. And I'm told there's also a desert biome, but I haven't reached it yet. But I did mention you're fighting against the clock. That's because each of the game instances of Icarus is set against what's called a prospect. Essentially, it's a self-contained session with a specific objective to complete before heading home. Crucially, each prospect has a time limit, usually around 7 days, but sometimes longer or shorter. That time limit is real-time, meaning if you start a 7-day prospect, you have a real-time week in which to complete it. Many in-game days can pass in that time. Where it gets tough, and where most of the negative Steam reviews draw attention to, is that if you fail to extract within that timer, your character dies. Wiped. Start again. You can of course leave early and forfeit the mission rewards, but if you leave your character beyond the return window, you have to start from scratch. The reason you take different prospects with different rewards is that when you're back up on your spaceship, you can craft different items which will give you a head start when you head back down to the surface. Whether it's a better environment suit, a 3D printed axe, all of those fabricated items rely on a currency which you get from completing prospects. The other really interesting element that these prospects add to the game, when compared to other survival games, is the idea of teching up the right amount. In many other games you would simply go for the top tier of items. In Icarus you can optimise your technology level to the mission that you're trying to complete. A simple prospect might only require the most basic of wooden shelters, and perhaps you might complete it without even crafting anything from metal. Whereas a prospect that requires you to venture into the Arctic is bound to require you to set aside time to craft a fur armour set, as well as a more robust shelter that can handle the harsher elements. Which is great because it gives a reason for different paths to exist, even in the late game. It's easy to spend a lot of time in survival type games, and the same is true for Icarus. You can easily sink hours getting lost in gathering materials to build, but the fact that other players are not likely to knock down your construct, as well as the time limit, encourage you to spend your time more wisely. The idea of tailoring your own efforts to achieving the mission objective is also clever, as it encourages you to think more about the things that you do. Graphically, Icarus is very satisfying. With DirectX 12 and real-time ray tracing, the game looks absolutely stunning, which often means you'll stop simply to admire the view of a mountain or a lake. And for construction enthusiasts, you'll certainly find a lot of spots where you'd like to plot down a base. The building system is mostly intuitive, although many blueprints could be better linked so you know you're unlocking everything you need to build something when you unlock it. Although many of the Steam reviews talk about the game being buggy, my experience has been the opposite so far, with the game much more stable than Star Citizen, for example. When you die, assuming there's still time on the clock, you take a minor experience penalty and continue onwards, which is fairly forgiving. The game definitely opens up when you experience it cooperatively with other players, letting you share the workload and spec differently. There are certainly frustrations, for example the time it takes to reach different milestones, or the curious unknowns of how the game makes you breathe oxygen through your spacesuit, but despite that is happy to let you catch pneumonia in caves, all the while watching the various animals on the world quite happily run around without an oxygen mask. As far as the long-term potential of the game, well, it may be something you play for a few weeks before moving on to the next thing. Although there is a progression system in unlocking new equipment you can take on a prospect with you, and although there are fairly regular content drops, once you've mastered the challenge of surviving, there isn't a huge amount to stick around for. Even for people who want to build impressive bases, the ticking clock draws attention to the fact that the world you're building is only temporary. All of that said, it's easy to rack up the hours in-game, and so if you're looking for something to distract you for a time, then perhaps Icarus might be worth a look. And if you've enjoyed this video, you might take a look at that like button, as it helps me to know where to focus my efforts to best suit what you'd like to see most. I'd also love to read your thoughts in the comments, whether you've tried Icarus or your thoughts on this video. Otherwise, as always, thank you for watching.